Good morning. Happy Thursday. How is everybody? Sorry, was just putting in some little bit of typing, which I'm sure you heard. Not using music today. I really want my teaching to go to YouTube, and so I am not going to use music during the Thursday streams for reasons that none of the music that Pretzel uses is YouTube safe. And I really don't think it matters. They don't mute it, but they do say copyright claimed. And for future, I don't know whether that could be a problem for me or not. So, for that reason, no music on the Thursdays. How is everybody? I have the most unusual breed. I'm going to wait just a few minutes and talk here a little bit more to see if anybody joins us, and also give myself that header of about 5 to 8 minutes that Twitch occasionally shortens and cuts off, and I don't want to be doing that. Chilly, chilly day today, but we've got sunshine, and it's December. Of course it's chilly. you know, we're very fortunate to have sunshine during this time of year. The week has been busy, and I will talk more about that on Sunday. I will stream next Sunday afternoon. I am on Eastern Standard Time in the United States. You'll have to kind of figure that out, but if you follow me on Twitch, and you can do that here if you're here now, or you can do that by going to my channel on Twitch, which is Yarnspinnerstales Tales. If you follow me, then you get a notification that I am live. So that takes care of all the different time differences. And I don't think I finished my statement. I'm going to, as I always do, a spin in where I just spin and chat on Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, let's get going on this unusual breed of sheep called Herdwick. For some reason, when I put out my little notice that says Yarn Spinner's going live, it would not let me put the name of this sheep breed in that comment. I'm not sure why. I thought maybe it might do a bleep on the chat, but it didn't. But that's the reason I didn't put it underneath the picture, because I wasn't real sure if it has a problem with that word for some reason. But the Herdwick sheep is from the British Isles, of course, and it is a very, very old breed of sheep. We don't have any that I know of being raised in the United States, but we do have access to the fiber through vendors who sell it on Etsy and different places that are gathering this fleece or raising it themselves and making it available to us spinners. There's going to be a lot of you who look at this fiber and say, oh, gorgeous color. Yes, it's gorgeous color. Oh, is it soft? No, it is not at all soft. And this becomes a challenge to work with this fiber, because you have to do things that you're comfortable with in its use, and find ways of using something that isn't going to necessarily go into a hat or scarf or something for you. So, as I have said in my podcast over the years, it seems so ironic that the most gorgeous colored fleeces are often hair-like instead of wool-like. And this is like that. It has a lot of hairy characteristics than actual fleece and wool characteristics. But I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about its origins, which actually nobody really knows. It is such a old breed of sheep. Nobody is 100% sure whether it came over with the Spanish fleets that came into the British area or if it was the Vikings that brought something. There are genetic reasons that say no to both of those, but the strongest reason that they're thinking it probably had the Viking origin is because there is a Norse word, Herdwick, that means sheep pasture. And so they're thinking that the Herdwick name came possibly over the years from that original Viking sheep breed that was brought to the British Isles. It is not a typical sheep by any means. There is just any kind of concept that you would think of your white fluffy sheep doesn't exist in the Herdwick. It doesn't exist in the way the fiber feels. It doesn't exist in the way it looks. It doesn't exist in how and what you can do with it. It is its own unique breed, and I say, let's hear it. Yay, diversity. They have kept the breed, obviously, and they must be finding uses. Meat, of course, is always a reason, but it is on the British watch list. I mean, I'm not 100% sure whether it's rare or not. I was going to say that, but I'm not actually found that piece of information. But let's just say that it's not very common for you to find the fiber or the yarn. And there is actually times that you can find the yarn available. But if you're going to find it most often, you're probably going to find somebody that's doing exactly like I got, a little bit of a sample to work with. And in my case, it was on the 52 weeks of sheep breed list, and that's why I decided to work with it. So I said it's not typical. Let's talk about this, how unusual this sheep breed is. First of all, the lambs are born jet black, face and everything. But very quickly as they start growing, their faces and ears turn white, their body stays black but gets lighter and lighter until it's around, they're a year old. They say it's a real brown color. So it's like the black is fading, right? And then as they age more, they become the typical gray color. Now there's always a mixture of different colors in this, and that is on the body. The face stays white, and so you have this sheep, and if you look up a picture on Google for it, that is all fluffy body, this lovely gray color, and a stark white face. Pretty cute, very cute. Now, the second thing that's not typical is the actual fiber itself is made up of what they say 4 different fibers. The coat for the Herdwick sheep has 4 different distinct fibers in it. And I believe this is probably the first I have ever heard of 4 fibers. I've heard of 3 in a number of breeds, but this is actually my first time to hear of 4 different fibers. First of all, you have an undercoat. This is going to be soft. It is going to be very hard to harvest. It's short sometimes, but it's also the smallest amount of the coat. So for your work, you're going to get the least amount. But if you do harvest it, if you do work for it, you do have a soft yarn to work with and a soft fiber to spin. The next is guard hair, and we're all familiar with guard hair, and a lot of times that's what we pull out before we do anything with the fleece and discard them. They're always usually a color, or they're very or they can be white like an Icelandic, and then they are very stiff. They're usually really the longest that's in the coat. Okay, so that's the guard hair. That's the second, that's probably the most, what am I trying to say? That is probably the vast majority of the fleece is made up of the guard hair, and then the what they call, and I have to look at this word again, heterotypical hairs. Okay, and these are the third that I have never heard of in a sheep breed before. And they are hair-like, and they grow and are shed and grow and shed just like we grow our hair. And they grow and change based on the season. So if it's going to be cold, there is one type of heterotypical hair in the fleece. And if it's going to be more summer-like and rainy, there is a second heterotypical type that comes out. And the whole reason is because it sheds the water better, the one that is grown. So it's really very unusual and something that I had not read of before. I don't know that I could go to this fleece and say, oh, this is a heterotypical fiber. If it'll all look probably like hairs and guard hairs and that sort of thing. I don't think that you can actually pick it out. I don't think there's a color difference. I think it's animal specific. You have no idea, unless you actually know when the fleece was sheared. You may have some idea if you have heterotypical summer or winter in there, but you may or may not be able to even tell that based on the weather. It's all sheep related, right? And what the sheep is deciding, its body is deciding it needs to grow. The last and fourth is another one that we're familiar with, and that's called Kemp. Kemp is always very stiff. It's undyeable. It's often white or very black, or, it is obvious though, and it's all usually very short. So when you are picking a fleece apart and pulling things out of it, you're going to remove Kemp almost all the time just for the way it looks and feels and everything. You're not going to want it in there. Well, in researching how to work with this fiber, my very first thing was tactile and my impression of it. And my impression of it was, all right, I'm going to get a whole bunch of this out of it. These are very short guard hairs and probably 80% Kemp. And the Kemp is the white that's right here. I probably can't show that without something dark to put it against. I'm looking to see if I have anything dark. I don't think this is even going to be dark enough. There it is. That's your Kemp. So you can see it's short, it's crimpy, not in a good way, and it's very, very stiff. For it to bend in those angles like that, that's very stiff. So that's Kemp. And that is the vast majority of what is in this fiber. If you feel it, it's still, this is clean. I got this sample clean. It's still somewhat wool-like in its texture and feel. That bounciness, that cushioniness. It's not that all that prickle stuff makes it stiff. It's that it feels not good against your hand. So that was, the first thing I did was, well, what am I going to do with this? Because obviously I'm not going to want to have yarn spun of this. Having said that, there are yarns that are spun, and they are, of course, used for weaving. Lovely color. They're used in basket making, felting, anything that is sturdy and usable and probably loved by some animals to make a bed or whatever out of. So it has its uses, and the yarn is available, and that is probably, after I do this breed study and finish up with what I want for this stream, I probably will drum card the entire thing together and make a very loose bat with my drum carder and not try and pull anything out except what looks like shortcuts, but it's just so short. There is just no way. That was actually part of the fiber that I got. This could be felted. It's just almost already so put together and held together. And that was the one comment they made on the reading I was doing about Herdwick, was those fibers just naturally want to cling together. It's pretty impossible to work without instruments and take a lock and just spin it and not get everything that's in that fiber into your yarn. Of course, that's true of any lock spinning, isn't it? So I did a little bit of trial and error before I decided that I would go ahead and stream this. And my decision was, if it's there, then let's just use it. If it's got Kemp in it, let's make use of that Kemp. If it's got, the guard hairs in it, let's make use of the guard hairs. If it really wants to cling together and felt, let's make use of that. And what does that all add up to in my brain? It adds up to a pot scrubber. A pot scrubber. And it's been used once, this one. It's been used once. It's been washed and dried. And that's another thing that I forgot when I was going through the characteristics of the breed. For wool, which often dries pretty quick, or sheds water or whatever, this dries extremely fast. And I think that's because there's so much openness to it with all those guard hairs in it and the Kemp and everything. And it did. I mean, I used it, I squeezed it out, I set it down, and within 30 minutes, it was completely, totally dry. So this is what I'm going to show today after I go through just the standard carding and combing of the fiber. Let me move a little bit of this and get myself more situated here. All right, so this is the super short. I am not going to use the super short. Let's put that. And I do have more. My entire sample was this. So I'm going to take that out and put the super short down there in that. And I'm going to let you see what this looks like as I open it up. Yep, we got some dirt. So this is the kind of area that is all Kemp, all hair, all whatever. Do I bother with that? Not combing. I am not going to bother combing. This little bit here might have a little better, but this right here is just almost ready to felt as a sheet. If you can see that. I'm going to just take some of this and okay, so let's say I'm going to felt that as a sheet. Now why do that? Well, I want to try it. That's my first reason. I want to try felting this just as it is and see if that makes a pot scrubber without going through all the problems what all the work that I went through to make this pot scrubber. I want to see if I can just do it by felting. So that was the first thing that I'm looking for as I'm pulling the fiber out of here. The next thing I'm looking for is possibly some that has more of the undercoat to it. And this looks like a likely candidate right here, where it has more of the undercoat to it. Now it's short, but I don't see a whole lot of Kemp there, and I don't see, so this I'm going to comb. And this is how I decide. So here's some locks. Here's some specific locks so we can see what a lock looks like. See how much it's felted together? I mean, it wants to. And you can also, I didn't put a tablecloth on my table today because it is truly going to be full of short stuff. Now this I'm going to save. even though it's a lock, it's still connected to a whole bunch of this really short stuff right there. But that is a lock right there. That one's a nice size lock, but you can see different fibers in there. There's Kemp, there's guard hair that's gray, or there's guard hair that's black, and there's heterotypical. This could be undercoat right there. It doesn't want to pull out real good, but that could be undercoat, or that could be the heterotypical. As I said, I can't really tell. Usually the undercoat is going to be way down in here, and you get to it by pulling all your long stuff off and letting the what's left is your undercoat. But this is not the way this one works. This just doesn't really divide up into good locks. It always has this little bit under or whatever, this really, really short stuff right there that's holding it together. But that's one I'm going to save for my breed file. All right, so let's look at this some more. I'm going to do some combing on this bit right here, see what kind of undercoat I can get. I am not going to do a whole bunch. I got a real shortcut there. But this looks like a good amount here to do on the combing. Now we got some more of this. And this here, it's pretty loose. This has some nice length to it. And this kind of bunch I'm going to use for the carders. Now, the carder is what I used to make that scrubby. It does have this really short. Don't want that. I haven't actually gotten rid of anything yet, but you know, I may. So, I'm going to put, and I'm saving that because that's actually combed. That's actually, so here's my carded. I want a card. This is nothing but Kemp and guard hairs. I've got enough for drum carding, and one of the things I might do is include the shorter Kemp and guard hair stuff into what I drum card, with the thought that that's going to make the kind of mat that I could felt. Okay, felt more. All right. This is right there in the middle. I could comb this, but probably not get too much out of it. And it's a good carding if I separate it out. So I think I'm going to, well, let's see if I need that. After I go through the rest of this, see what I need here. This also looks like good drum carding. Not a whole lot of, or hand cards. I'm going to be using hand cards today, not drum carding. Nice, kind of a nice mixture. I don't like this little string of stuff. I'm not going to use that. This is all dark, really dark short. Look at that. Really dark short. Good for blending in a drum carded bat. This is not bad for a hand card. This really looks promising as far as combing, except for some of this shorter right here. Now that I have kind of walked around this Earl Brown, that is like Tog. I mean, that is just right there like Tog. And actually, I want to save some of the brown. I haven't saved any of that. I try to save a little bit that's characteristic of the fleeces. And because I'm going to not use any of that today, okay? Just because of its differentness for the rest of the carding and combing. I'm going to put that aside too. I have not really figured out what to do with these areas that have that, whether to remove it or if I want to leave it. And I regretted when I took the time to totally remove all of the tog from my Icelandic and then promptly went back and carded more in because of the way I wanted to work with it. That it kind of made me mad that I did that. So I'm not going to do that again with this. So I have put back, at least half of this, but that's all right because when I do a breed study, I always have some left over, and I'm going to put this, and we're going to start with the combs. If you didn't catch the very beginning of this, I am not using music anymore on Thursdays because I want to put these on YouTube, and the music that Pretzel's using is not YouTube safe. So I want to make sure that I can put this on YouTube. So I'm just not going to use music on Thursdays. I will on Sundays when we're doing the spin-in. All right, so we're going to just do some combing here. We're going to lose a lot. We're just not going to have a whole bunch left. Sometimes I wish I had bigger combs, but they would be hard on your hands, and these are a good size for that. It just does take time. Busy time of year, I have a lot to do. All right. And in this particular case, there's not a lot of shortcuts. It's just the guard hair and stuff. I am going to put it back and do some drum carding with it. Here is some pretty nice soft fiber right here. There is some of the black in it. And a lot of the coarser stuff is being held by the combs, and that's the top I'm getting. And like I said, I'm going to put that back into the bag and run it through the drum carder. Got to make sure I'm on camera here. That's probably enough. I tend to overload my combs. I get impatient. And it's not a lot of back and forth. I switch once. And when I put more fiber on like that, I end up with, it doesn't all transfer to one comb. So and this is maybe when they're making the Herdwick yarn, they are actually processing from a way to remove and get this undercoat. It would be nice. I have never actually purchased any, obviously. So I can't say with any certainty one way or another. not going to get too much out of this. This feels pretty coarse. You know, I've always heard that there were so many uses for wool that we no longer use. Um, Everyday things that they would make, you know, and that sort of thing, that those things needed to be sturdy. They weren't necessarily garments and that sort of thing, and they needed to be water resistant, and they needed to be sturdy, and they needed to wear well and felt wear, you know, and hold themselves up by felting and that sort of thing. And it's, you know, this is when they were raising sheep back with the Vikings and everything, and early British, this kind of breed of sheep they wanted. Wasn't really very practical to have white. They wasn't, I mean, they could dye, but it wasn't real common. Or they had maybe one dye pot for the community and everybody wore the same color clothes, you know. Just a couple more, I think 2 more here. And I will set it aside and spin it in a bit. I'll go ahead and do the processing for the carding too. And going back to those days and all that, they would not have been processing it with these little tiny tools either. They weren't careful with their wool. In so many ways, or picky, you know. I don't know if I would ever find a fleece for this, but it would be quite fun to find one and sit at a Ren fair and make ye old pot scrubbers, ye old pot cleaners. I think that would attract a crowd. You can see how little I'm getting and how much is left over. That's, to get this undercoat is just almost impossible here. There's enough other sheep that give us nicer next to the skin. But the important point is it's doable. It's there and you can get it. Well, I lied. It was 3 more, so I don't like those clumps though. It does seem, though, the fleece that you're going to use the least of has the most fiber. I don't remember this fiber being expensive. It's not precious. don't play music, you can hear the sounds of the tools make. I know that spinning wheels are nice to listen to, but the tools all make their own sounds. Okay. You're going to feel this on your hands, let me tell you. This is not easy work. Just in case you're just now stopping by, this is called combing. Working on a very unusual breed of sheep. Currently being raised in the British Isles. And the resulting fiber, what I pull off of these combs is called top. Okay, so I've made my top. Now these are combs. I mean cards. These are cards. It's like brushing. The difference between combing, which is like combing your hair, and carding, which is like brushing your hair. The goal on this is to make the fiber that I spun into a single to knit into the scrubby. And it's a very, very loose bat. It's not any kind of fancy carding. It's about once on each side and rolled off, left loose, so it looks like that. Have to pull the fiber apart before you put it on here, or it won't card right. These are bigger than the combs, so they're a little harder to keep in the camera. Maybe I can do this more. Wrong way. There. It leaves some on the one carder, but that just gets mixed in with the next one. It doesn't matter. It's all the same fiber. And if you look at this, what is known as roving or row log, it's got everything in it. There's Kemp in it, there's the brown hairs in it, there's the gray hairs in it. It's all there. And that's what I want. Some will have more Kemp than others, as I just now load this one. It's gonna, but the singles are all going to go into the same thing anyway, so it doesn't matter. It all becomes part of the fabric I'm gonna try and knit. I actually think that the more Kemp that's in it, the better. I did say I had used this pot scrubber once already, and I will let you know. The Kemp did come out. You might not like the thought of using wool on your pots, although I did not find it to be like abrasive enough that it's going to scratch the surface of anything. It's got not even as much abrasiveness as a lot of your commercial scrubbies, your scrubbers. But some people are like, well, that's stinky sheep wool, you know, which of course it's not right now. It's washed, and you have put it into dish soap and hot water, and it's going to felt. The more you use it, the more it's going to felt. I would probably recommend making it a bigger size than what I made. That was an experiment, and I hadn't spun very much of the singles, so I ran out of yarn that I had spun. Now I have a piece of hay there. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I work in such close quarters here. I'm just like, can't move. Now this card is getting pretty full. I should have cleaned it off. If it gets too full, it won't card well. Obviously, there's no way for the teeth to grip down into the other card. I got it pretty good though. I have some looser stuff. That was what was on the other card, and I'm going to take it off of there and put it on the next one after cleaning this card off. Let's do that. It's time to do that. We'll leave it there. I have plenty here. I'm going to stop because I do want to spin this and do a little bit of knitting, and we're going to go way over in time, I'm sure. All right. Well, it's me sweeping in here today, that's for sure. I'm going to be spinning on my Roberta, and I only need one bobbin because all I'm going to do is make a single. Oh, I lied. I'm going to do the top first. I do that a lot of times. I change my mind. Let's do the... because I haven't actually spun any of this, and I do want some of it for my breed study, so. So we'll do 2 bobbins and ply it. Switched around here. Okay. Oh, I got the rattly bobbin. It'll stop here in a minute. much pull in. So let's take care of that. There we go. No special way of spinning it. Just like any top. Pull it out. Got a pretty nice drafting zone. It's still pinch and pull. I do need a little more pull in. I'm getting too much twist. Now, if I hit some Kemp in here, it sticks out like a sore thumb. There's just no way around that. And there's definitely Kemp in here. So it's going to be a yarn that has some texture to it. But it's soft. I mean, it's not soft, but it's not unpleasant to spin at all as a top. It's almost silky. It slides easy. It's easy to join. You don't have any problems joining it. Just use this one last little one. And look at this gray color. Now it does blend in so that you get a pretty common looking gray that a lot of fleeces do have in the colored sheep varieties. This gray is usually got a little bit more brown to it, but very common to see this kind of a gray. Do the second single. And this is just going to be enough for me to have a little bit of sample to knit and a swatch and like a little bit of twist of the yarn for the breed study file. I like it. I really do. I like this top. Got little bits and pieces though, so. This is where I miss music. Sorry about that. I know a lot of people listen. I listen to Twitch, live streams instead of actually watching. We're always doing something else, aren't we? So, and I know the music fills that void in. Oop, a lot of Kemp right there. I guess I could have pulled that out. I mean, in the sense, not used that particular top. After a certain point, though, you waste all your time being super picky. Just spin it. That's my motto. Just spin it. All right, let's apply this. I'm not going to take the time like I do in a lot of breed studies, do the rep test, check the reps per inch and all that. I'll check that later. Not going to take the time here on the stream. So that was a crazy beginning, but that's alright. At least I'm going the right direction. Okay, so this is not soft. I would not consider this next to the skin. In spite of being undercoat, it was too much other stuff included. The Kemp and all that got in there as I was combing it. So, it's not super soft at all. Where's my scissors? It looks like I got a little bit too much twist in it. Alright, I got a really bad join there, but that's alright. I will separate it at that point. Not going to work with this today. Did not get thin like you do traditionally with top. I have a lot of extra twist. I put too much twist in that, but that'll relax out. It's already going down there, twirling around and relaxing out, which means that the actual ply won't be quite as tight, but that's okay too. So that's the top. All right, now let's talk about this carded stuff. I'm only going to make a single. There is no reason to have a 2-ply. It will be kinky in the sense that it'll have extra twist to it by not plying it. It won't be balanced. But this was made that way, and once you get it in the hot soapy water, all of that works out and you don't have that problem at all. And what I'm going for, it can't be real bulky, but it needs to be sufficiently drafted out, and it takes me just a little bit of going. But okay, first of all, I gotta put the speed down. I need more loft than I need. And it really is almost like I'm just doing a semi-woolen. Okay, pinch, pull, smooth it a little bit when I hit the clumpy areas. I'm going for somewhat consistent single without an excessive amount of twist, but it's pretty hard because, as you can see, I'm fiddling with this so much that I have a lot of twist. So let me see if more pull-in will help that. Spin it quicker. And that slows the speed down too. And I like that a little better. I got that a little better. This little bit of roving bats, whatever you want to call it, that I have here is going to make a pretty full bobbin. And I'm going to try and cast on and make a bigger scratcher pad. Alright. Once in a while I pull some stuff out. Not often. We'll stop it anyway. There is still extra twist there. So when I said that I wanted a loose roll log, this is why. Because I wanted it to be able to, in spite of its desire to stick together a lot, I wanted it to be able to pull out like this. And you need it pretty loose in order for it to do that. I also am allowing all of this scratchiness to get spun to the point where it sticks out. You know, it just isn't getting compacted in that single as much as you do when you do a worsted top type pinch and pull spinning. It's not true long draw at all. It's semi-woolen. But I am trying to control it a little bit more than most of my even semi-woolen to get the single to be as consistent as possible. Now that got a little thin. I didn't have much holding it together. And that's all right. See, that kind of stuff though gets balanced out when you ply. And I'm not going to be plying this, so I will have thicker and thinner areas in the fabric of the knitting, but that also is okay. That helps that nubbly look and usefulness as you're using it. Now there's a bunch of ketchup. This is the one I was talking about when I said, oh, there's a lot of Kemp in that. Okay. I hit an end point where it all came to the end at the same time. It's all really scratchy Kemp. It didn't have anything to hold it together. So I'm going to stop on that one. You can tell if you've got it what you want when it joins. You just lay it there and it goes pull out and joins. Don't even really have to pull it out ahead of time. Of course, I have a lap full of little dropping things, and I probably should have put my apron on, but didn't feel like it today. It'll brush off. Okay, have you seen enough of this spinning? Got the idea? This has a lot of Kemp in it too. That's what we want. I like the way you have the different colors too. There's a stripe there. You can see the top and bottom is two different colors. I like that look. The yarn that I saw a picture of, and it was in a book, looked like it was pretty thoroughly homogenized, and you just had a kind of a darker gray color. The undercoat is definitely lighter. All right. Now let's do a little bit of knitting. Yes, straight off the bobbin. Straight off the bobbin. I don't remember how many stitches I cast on there. Probably the other thing, when you look at traditional scrubber patterns, they usually double them, but they are not using as scratchy, hairy of a fiber as I am. Okay, Now you can see it's real kinky. It really has a lot of twist to it, and I'm controlling that, keeping it straight where I'm casting on. One of the reasons the long tail cast on really works good, I can put that pull on that and keep that straight. Casting on pretty loose. And I don't know how many stitches I have, but I think I'm going for around 25 if I haven't hit 30 already. Nope. That was 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. That's what I'm going to do. It's 22. Okay. I have a lot left here, but we'll see if we can work with it. Sometimes it gets in the way. Alright, I am not doing any kind of pattern. It is garter stitch, knit on both sides. You want that nubbly look. And I think I'm sticking that between my knees. You can see all the twist here. You can see all the kink right there. It's okay. Knit loose. When you take it off, when you cast off, and I don't know if I will here today or not, do all of this. Depends how quick it goes, how much I want to sit here. But when you cast off, it will look a little, biasy. The fabric will look biasy. But as soon as you wet it with soap, all you have to do, and hot water, all you have to do is just take and pull on it. Stretch it out the way you like it. Use it, so you're putting some agitation on it. The more you use it, the more it will felt. On the other hand, when you're initially setting your size, what you want to do is get your shape as much as you can, because what it's going to do is felt into that shape, and you want it square or whatever. You can crochet with this. It probably will bother you a little bit more with the twist. You can make a circular pattern if you want to do crochet. I wouldn't recommend a circular pattern with knitting, with all your fancy stitches and everything. The less complicated your actual process of making this is, the better, because of all the twist of using the single. You can spin 2 singles and ply them if you want to work with a larger, thicker yarn. I just was saving time by doing it this way, because it isn't necessary to have a pretty 2-ply yarn. I don't keep track of yardage or anything doing this. Just put it on the needles and knit it. I'm knitting so loose it's actually sliding off the ends of the needles. There's no tension on this at all when I'm knitting. This is exactly how I make my swatches for the breed study, and in fact I am going to keep this one as my breed study example And this one, I may have to add more to it. We'll see. If I want to make a bigger square, I may have to spin some more, and that's why I said I would do some drum carding, because ultimately I am not going to do any more combing on this, trying to get top. And I just want to have either a single spun like this or a mat that I can felt with soap and agitation. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to do the mat. That'll be something I may talk about later, because it's an experiment, so I can't give you an exact way of doing that, but it requires soap, hot water, and agitation, and the agitation often is applied friction as opposed to agitation. Sometimes that's a better way of thinking of it, taking something and rubbing on it. That's one way to try it. The other is just do like I did with the small version and see if it's enough to soap it up really good and rub it against itself to make, if that'll work as a mat or if it has to be knit to do that. So I will just continue doing this until I have the size that I want, and then I will use it. And as soon as I finish this row, I'll lay it down and I'm going to call it quits for the day. As I said at the very beginning, I will be streaming on Sunday, and it will just be a spin-in. So bring something to work on, bring something to drink, and let's chat while I spin. It'll be Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. If you follow me, you'll get notified when I go live, and you can know whatever time you have that I am live. There it is. That's the knitting that I've done so far. You can see that probably I'm going to be spinning more or have a very narrow pot scrubber. But that's all right. I am perfectly willing to spin some more the way I just did. It's quick and easy. This was the top. You can see it's a little smoother. It doesn't have all that prickle to it. This is the carded roving, and there is a huge difference in it. So that has been the Herdwick breed. I thought it was amazingly interesting. You know me, I don't like to say that any breed of sheep. I've never met a breed of sheep I can't find something to do with and work with. And this is one of the biggest examples that I have hit so far. So, until later, happy spinning. Bye.